The Galactic Consortium was desperate. For centuries, its coalition of advanced civilizations had maintained peace through diplomacy, superior technology, and unmatched coordination. But now the Kal'thrash Swarm, a biomechanical nightmare of evolving organisms, was unraveling the consortium's defenses. Entire planets had fallen. Fleets had been consumed. Every strategy, every weapon had failed. In the Great Council Chamber of Ether Prime, the consortium's leaders convened for what many feared would be their final meeting. Holographic figures hovered around a vast circular table, each representing a different species of the coalition. The air vibrated with tension as Admiral Zil-Thor, a towering figure of shimmering blue scales, addressed the assembly. "Our fleets are in retreat," he declared, his voice resonating through the chamber. "If we do not find a solution, the Kal'thrash will reach Ether Prime within a cycle. We cannot win this war with the tools we possess." Murmurs of dismay rippled through the chamber. The Lithari, delicate beings with translucent skin that shimmered like starlight, whispered among themselves. The Tragar, a brutish, four-armed species known for their martial prowess, grunted their disapproval. Even the pragmatic Xerinxians, known for their unshakable calm, exchanged uneasy glances. Then a voice cut through the noise. "There is one possibility," said Minister Dayar, the consortium's chief archivist. The room fell silent as her hologram flickered to life, her insectoid features glinting in the dim light. "An ancient legend speaks of a weapon, long forgotten but unmatched in power. It is said to have been created by a species called humans." "Humans?" scoffed General Kortath of the Tragar. "A myth. No credible records of their existence remain." "They were no myth," Dayar replied, her tone sharp. "Humanity was real, though they vanished thousands of cycles ago. Their system, Sol, was quarantined after an unknown catastrophe. But fragments of our oldest archives suggest they possessed something extraordinary, something that could turn the tide of this war." "What kind of weapon are we talking about?" asked Verthar, a Xerinxian captain who had led more battles than he cared to count. Unlike many others, he was willing to grasp at any hope, no matter how thin. Dayar's mandibles clicked. "The records are incomplete, but they describe humans themselves as the weapon. A species capable of unparalleled innovation and adaptability. They thrived in chaos and could turn even their weaknesses into strengths." Verthar leaned forward. "Where do we find them?" "That is the challenge," Dayar admitted. "Their planet, Earth, is in ruins. Scans indicate no signs of intelligent life. But beneath the surface, there are faint energy readings, anomalies consistent with advanced technology. If anything of humanity remains, it will be there." The council erupted in debate. Some dismissed the idea as folly, a waste of resources when every ship was needed to hold back the Kal'thrash. Others argued that any chance, no matter how slim, was worth pursuing. Verthar, however, did not wait for a consensus. He stood, his holographic form towering over the table. "I'll assemble a team," he said firmly. "If there's even a fragment of truth to this legend, we owe it to every life in the consortium to find out." The Eclipse's Edge was an elegant starship, sleek and fast, designed for deep space reconnaissance. Its crew, though small, was handpicked for the mission. Verthar stood on the bridge, his angular features illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. Beside him was Ylsera, the Lithari bioengineer whose knowledge of ancient biology was second to none. "We're approaching the Sol system," Ylsera said, her voice melodic but tinged with unease. "The data streams suggest significant debris fields. Navigating will be challenging." "Challenge accepted," grunted Tak, the Tragar scout who was adjusting his suit of reinforced armor. His four arms moved with practiced efficiency as he checked his weapons. "If there's anything worth finding down there, I'll make sure we get to it." Nox, the ship's AI, projected its sleek humanoid form onto the bridge. "Preliminary scans confirm the quarantine zone is intact. The remains of artificial satellites suggest the system was once highly developed. No life signs detected on Earth's surface, but there are irregular power signatures underground." "Then that's where we'll go," Verthar said. The ship slipped through the debris field, weaving between shattered asteroids and derelict spacecraft that had been abandoned for millennia. When Earth finally came into view, the crew fell silent. The planet was a ghost of its former self, its once blue oceans now choked with ash, its green continents scorched black. "Hard to believe this place was once the cradle of the so-called weapon," Tak muttered. "It's not the surface we're interested in," Verthar reminded him. "Nox, guide us to the energy source." The Eclipse's Edge descended into Earth's atmosphere, buffeted by violent storms and thick clouds of toxic dust. They landed near the ruins of an ancient city, its skyline reduced to jagged stumps of steel and concrete. "Suit up," Verthar ordered. "Whatever's down there, we're going to find it." The crew stepped into the wasteland, their boots crunching on brittle ground. The air was silent, heavy with the weight of forgotten history. As they approached a massive underground bunker, Verthar couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. Deep within the shadows, the energy readings grew stronger. And with them, so did the sense that this mission would change everything. The entrance to the underground bunker loomed before the team, a massive steel door half buried in rubble. Faded symbols and ancient warnings were etched into its surface, written in a language none of them could read. Ylsera knelt to examine the markings, her translucent fingers tracing the lines. "These characters are consistent with pre-catastrophe human records," she murmured. "But the language is fragmented. I can only make out part of it, restricted access, and something about containment." Tak snorted. "Containment? Great. Let's hope we're not walking into something that's still alive down here." "Only one way to find out," Verthar said, his voice steady. He motioned to Nox. The AI approached the control panel beside the door, its sleek metallic fingers connecting to the ancient interface. A faint hum echoed as the ancient mechanism sprang to life. The door groaned open, revealing a dark, yawning tunnel that descended into the earth. "Power signatures are stronger now," Nox reported, its glowing eyes scanning the passage. "There are active systems deep below. Whatever these humans left behind, it's still functioning." The team moved cautiously, their lights cutting through the oppressive darkness. The air inside was stale, and the walls were lined with corroded pipes and panels. Verthar took point, his weapon at the ready, while Tak brought up the rear, his 4 hands gripping an arsenal of alien weaponry. As they ventured deeper, the oppressive silence gave way to faint sounds, mechanical whirs and clicks that seemed to echo from every direction. "This facility is remarkably well preserved," Ylsera said, her voice hushed. "For something so ancient, the technology here is resilient." "That's one word for it," Tak muttered. "Creepy is another." Suddenly Nox stopped, its head tilting as it processed new data. Movement detected. 30 meters ahead. Unidentified. The team froze. Verthar raised a hand, signaling them to hold their positions. "Defensive formation," he ordered. The movement resolved into a low rumble, followed by a burst of light as ancient drones emerged from concealed alcoves in the walls. Their spherical bodies hovered with eerie precision, glowing with a menacing red light. "Defensive systems," Ylsera shouted, diving for cover. The drones opened fire, their energy blasts ricocheting off the walls. Tak roared, unleashing a barrage of plasma bolts from his weapons, while Nox darted forward, hacking into the drones' control systems. Verthar's precise shots took out several drones, but more swarmed in their place. "These things are relentless," Tak growled. "We need to shut them down at the source," Ylsera called out. Nox interfaced with a nearby terminal, its robotic form trembling as it bypassed layers of security. After a tense moment, the drones suddenly powered down, their red lights fading to black. The silence returned, heavier than before. "Well, that was welcoming," Tak said, brushing dust off his armor. "This facility was clearly designed to protect something," Verthar said, his tone grim. "We need to find out what." The team pressed onward, their steps echoing in the now still corridor. Eventually they entered a vast chamber, illuminated by faint blue light. At its center was a massive cryogenic pod, its surface frosted over. Power cables snaked out from the pod, connecting to humming consoles that lined the walls. Ylsera approached the pod, her eyes wide with fascination. "This is it. A stasis chamber, ancient but functional." She wiped away the frost, revealing the figure inside. A man. He was human, unmistakably so. His body appeared fragile, but his features were calm, almost peaceful, as if he had been frozen in the middle of a dream. "Is this the weapon?" Tak asked, incredulous. "That thing doesn't look like it could fight a bug, let alone save the galaxy." Ylsera ignored him, her attention fixed on the monitors. "His biological patterns are extraordinary. Neural activity is dormant but shows an unprecedented capacity for adaptation and problem-solving. This is no ordinary being." Verthar stepped closer, his gaze unreadable. "Then we wake him. What if he's dangerous?" Tak protested. "We're already in danger," Verthar said. "This might be our only chance." Nox connected to the pod systems, initiating the revival process. The chamber filled with the hiss of escaping gas as the cryogenic mechanisms disengaged. The man's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and wide with confusion. He gasped for air, his voice raw and desperate. Where am I? You're safe, Verthar said, his tone steady but firm. And we need your help. The man looked at them, his expression shifting from fear to guarded curiosity. My name is Alex, he said, his voice trembling but resolute. What do you need me for? Verthar met his gaze. To save the galaxy. Alex Carter sat on the edge of a makeshift cot in the Eclipse's Edge medical bay, staring at his hands. They felt alien to him, stiff and pale as if they belonged to someone else. His mind struggled to process the bizarre truths he had been told. The fall of Earth, the disappearance of humanity, and the desperate mission of his strange rescuers. Across the room, Captain Verthar stood with his arms crossed, watching Alex closely. Beside him, Ylsera was running scans on a console, her translucent skin glowing faintly in the dim light. His brain activity is extraordinary, she said, her voice filled with awe. Neural synapses firing at rates far beyond anything I've seen. He's a biological anomaly. Or a relic, grumbled Tak from the corner. The hulking Tragar leaned against the wall, his forearms folded across his chest. We risked our lives for a primitive who hasn't seen daylight in millennia. He doesn't even know what year it is. I heard that, Alex muttered, finally looking up. His voice was hoarse but steady. And for the record, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not useless. Verthar stepped forward, his piercing gaze meeting Alex's. We need you to prove that. Right now you're our only lead. The legends say your people were unparalleled in creativity and problem-solving. If that's true, show us. Alex frowned, his mind racing. He didn't trust these aliens, but their desperation was evident, and their story about Earth's destruction seemed all too plausible. Fine, he said. What's the problem? Ylsera gestured to a broken piece of consortium technology on the table, a device resembling a sleek tablet with shattered circuitry. This is a remote uplink node. It allows us to access encrypted consortium networks. We rely on it for communication and intelligence, but it was damaged during the drone attack. Alex picked up the device, turning it over in his hands. Looks like a shorted power relay, he said after a moment. Do you have any tools? Ylsera handed him a set of alien instruments, clearly skeptical. Alex examined each one, familiarizing himself with their function before setting to work. His movements were tentative at first, then increasingly confident. The room fell silent as he tinkered, his fingers deftly bridging gaps in the circuitry and rerouting power. 10 minutes later, the device flickered to life. Got it, Alex said, handing it back to Ylsera. She stared at him, astonished. That would have taken me hours to repair. How did you? Humans call it improvisation, Alex said, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Even Tak grunted in reluctant approval. Before they could say more, the ship's alarms blared. Nox materialized on the bridge's holographic display, its synthetic voice urgent. Kal'thrash scout vessels detected. They're moving to intercept. Battle stations. Verthar barked, heading for the bridge. Alex hesitated, unsure where he fit into this alien war. Ylsera touched his shoulder lightly. You wanted to prove yourself, she said. Here's your chance. On the bridge, the crew scrambled as Verthar issued orders. The Kal'thrash ships, organic monstrosities resembling giant insects, closed in on their position, firing bursts of bioplasma. Weapons online. Tak roared, manning the ship's turrets. Let's see how these bugs like consortium firepower. But the Kal'thrash adapted quickly, their ships maneuvering with uncanny precision. One blast struck the Eclipse's edge, sending a shudder through the hull. We won't survive a direct engagement, Verthar said grimly. Alex studied the tactical display, his mind racing. The Kal'thrash were fast, coordinated, and seemingly unbeatable. But then he saw it, a pattern in their movements. They're predictable, Alex said suddenly. What? Verthar asked, glancing at him. They're moving in perfect synchronization. It's like they're following a script. If we disrupt their coordination, we can create an opening. Verthar frowned. And how do you propose we do that? Give me access to the ship's comms, Alex said, his voice firm. Reluctantly, Nox complied. Alex worked quickly, broadcasting a series of mismatched signals, static, distorted frequencies, and garbled transmissions. The Kal'thrash ships hesitated, their movements faltering as their hive mind coordination was disrupted. Now? Alex shouted. Tak unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts, tearing through the disoriented enemy ships. One by one they exploded in bursts of green fire. When the last enemy ship was destroyed, the bridge erupted in cheers. Verthar turned to Alex, his expression unreadable. Not bad for a relic. Alex allowed himself a small smile. For the first time in centuries he felt alive. The crew gathered in the war room, a circular chamber dominated by a holographic display of the galaxy. The stars shone dimly in the projection, many of them marked with red to signify territories already consumed by the Kal'thrash. It was a stark reminder of what was at stake. Alex stood at the edge of the room, arms crossed, feeling the weight of every alien eye on him. He had helped them win the skirmish, but the larger question loomed over them. What made him the so-called weapon capable of saving the galaxy? Your improvisation disrupted the Kal'thrash, Verthar began, his tone as steady as ever. But a single battle does not win a war. We need a strategy to turn this into something sustainable. What do you mean? Alex asked. Nox's humanoid form appeared beside him, the AI's voice cold and clinical. The Kal'thrash are a hive mind, constantly adapting. The tactics you employed will not work twice. To defeat them, we must develop a system-wide disruption, something that strikes at the core of their coordination. Ylsera leaned forward, her luminous skin glowing faintly. The question is whether your ingenuity can extend to creating such a solution, Alex. The Consortium archives speak of humanity's unparalleled capacity to innovate in desperate times. Can you deliver? Alex exhaled slowly, stepping closer to the hologram. I don't know what your archives say about us, but humanity was never about individual brilliance. It was about collective ingenuity. Teams working together, bouncing ideas off one another, combining strengths. If I'm going to help you, I'll need access to everything you know about the Kal'thrash. The aliens exchanged uncertain glances. Verthar nodded after a long pause. You'll have it. But understand, our resources are limited and time even more so. You'll need to adapt as quickly as they do. Hours turned into days as Alex immersed himself in the Consortium's archives. Holographic data filled his workspace, images of Kal'thrash vessels, simulations of their attack patterns, and detailed analyses of their biology. Ylsera worked closely with him, explaining what the Consortium had learned from centuries of fighting the swarm. They aren't just creatures, she said, pointing to a bioschematic. They're an ecosystem. Their ships grow like organisms, their weapons evolve like predatory adaptations. It's unlike anything we've seen before. And that's their weakness, Alex said, his eyes lighting up. How? They evolve reactively, he explained. They adapt to immediate threats but can't anticipate complex, indirect ones. It's like chess. If we think several moves ahead, they'll always be a step behind. Alex sketched out his plan on the display. We create a multi-layered trap, false signals to lure their ships, decoy fleets to distract their forces, and an EMP pulse to sever their hive mind connection. Once they're isolated, we can destroy them piecemeal. Ylsera's eyes widened. That could work. The plan's execution was nothing short of audacious. The Eclipse's edge led a small fleet of Consortium ships to a critical sector where Kal'thrash forces were massing. Alex's decoy signals lit up the enemy's communication networks like a firestorm, drawing them into the trap. As predicted, the swarm converged, their organic ships swarming like locusts. Consortium decoy vessels deployed, mimicking larger fleets, and the Kal'thrash took the bait. EMP pulse charged, Nox reported from the bridge. Hold, Alex said, watching the tactical display. Timing was everything. The enemy ships clustered tightly, their coordination flawless, until the pulse detonated. A brilliant wave of energy rippled through the void, and suddenly the Kal'thrash ships faltered. Their movements became erratic, like insects with their antennae severed. Now? Verthar barked. Tak unleashed a barrage of firepower, and the remaining Consortium ships followed suit. The Kal'thrash fleet, once an unstoppable force, disintegrated into debris. When the battle was over, the bridge erupted in celebration, but Alex slumped into a chair, exhausted. Back in the war room, the crew reviewed the results. The Kal'thrash had been defeated in this sector, but the war was far from over. Your plan worked, Verthar said, his voice carrying a rare note of approval. It's a start, Alex replied. But if we're going to win, we'll need to scale this up, coordinate across the entire Consortium. We need every species working together just like humans did in the old days. Ylsera smiled faintly. Perhaps the greatest weapon humanity left behind wasn't technology. It was your way of thinking. Alex looked at the galaxy map, still speckled with red. For the first time he felt a flicker of hope. Then let's teach the galaxy how to fight back.